Ladies and gentlemen, this is your Box Office Quarterbacks podcast speaking. We would like to inform you that you will not be sitting back. You will not be relaxing if you go to see Top Gun Maverick. You will be in for one hell of a ride. You will be in for an adrenaline rush, and you might cry several times. So be prepared. That is the only spoiler we're giving away this episode. I'm Ryan Schmelz, joined by Jeffrey Gordon, and we are doing a very impromptu instant reaction to Top Gun Maverick. And let's just say we are both, there will be no spoilers, but we are both very satisfied.
We were very blown away. Ryan is dressed like Iceman, if you're listening to the audio version of this. Wow, Ryan. I've never been so blown away from a movie experience like I have getting out of that theater last night. This movie is fantastic.
I was very impressed. I might not be making the hot takes about it that you're about to make because we talked before we came on here, but this was a triumphant combination of emotional roller coaster and adrenaline rush, which I think was what made the first Top Gun great. And I think this movie does that extremely well as well. It is not perfect. There are some issues I have, like the runtime is a little long. I think that the ending is a little far-fetched and gets a little too ridiculous when throughout most of the movie, I think it's very authentic and very realistic until that point, but still does have some amazing parts towards the end from beginning to end. I mean, literally, you never wanted to leave the theater. I think just like the entire time you were at the edge of your seat or you're being gripped by the emotional storytelling that goes on here. It's not perfect. Some of that emotional stuff falls flat, but for the most part, a really, really well-balanced film and really, really impressive.
See, I thought this was a perfect movie. I think it capitalized on everything the first movie gave you, and it gave you a great relationship, particularly between Miles Teller's character and Tom Cruise playing Pete Maverick again. So this is one of the most well-made movies I've ever seen, ever. And that has to do with practical effects. And me and Ryan have, spoken about practical effects and things like that in the past. But man, this movie just does it better than so many movies that have done it before.
Yeah, my goodness, the effects in this movie, my goodness, the flight sequences are just beautiful and they are spectacular and they're just thrilling and they're so impressive looking. I mean, you have the actual cast in these cockpits, filming these scenes and it's authentic footage. It's so beautifully shot in so many ways. And I think that's what the first movie really did a great job on. And the sound mixing, sound editing's on point. And I think some of the real MVPs with this movie are just the music and score folks. I mean, Hans Zimmer's involved with this. This might be his best work yet, and I think that's a really strong hot take. But you also have Lady Gaga involved, Lauren Balfe involved, and I'm going to screw up some of these names, but Harold Faltermeyer, is that how you say it?
Never heard of him. I know that they played Danger Zone, so I was happy.
Yeah, so I apologize for screwing their names up, but like you combine the sound mixing, sound editing, and the folks who did the score for this movie, the sounds are just as spectacular as the visuals, I would think.
This is a movie, like, before my showing, and I'm sure they probably did this for all of them, Tom Cruise pops up on your screen. He's like, this movie was made for the big screen. And it's true. Because
he was not lying.
I cannot imagine this movie on like the 32-inch TV in my room or something like that. This has to be seen on the big screen. And if you do see it in IMAX, which I didn't do, but man, it really takes you into the action.
I was sitting second row for my showing. Yeah, I mean, I was sitting second row for my showing, and I was just as captivated as if I would have been sitting in any spot in the movie theater. I mean, it was such a thrill ride. And I would also say too, this was well worth the wait. And I don't, one thing I will say, there's a lot of people who really like to watch things on their phone. And little prop for the box office quarterbacks right there.
Look at that.
But they like to sit and watch things on their phone. Like, this is kind of one of those movies where no, you've got to get out and just go to the movie theater. Like this movie reminded us of why the movie theater experience is so awesome.
Yeah, I was especially the last 30 minutes of this movie, I was like on the edge of my seat. And my wife is like, "Oh man, you're really stressed out right now." I was like, "Yeah, this is just so crazy everything that's happening because I thought there were no spoilers. I thought the movie ended a certain way like five different times, but it kept going and going. And I see that's kind of where the runtime issue where that Ryan had comes in. But man, for a movie that isn't, based on some existing IP or like superheroes or something like that, this is the most fun you're going to have in the movies this year. And the cast
Yeah.
is great. Um, I loved the relationships between a lot of the characters. Jennifer Connelly's character and Tom Cruise, I thought was a huge improvement on the relationship that we had in the first movie. So that was another pleasant surprise for me as well.
Yeah, and I think this movie struck a good balance and not falling for the tricks of like having you do the sequel and then like all these years later the person who we loved in the first film, our hero, has got this hard knock life and they're all miserable now. Like I think like the Halloween or the million times we brought back John McCain, it just seems like his John McClane, it just seems like his life's gotten worse and worse each time we have another John McClane movie. And in this case, like in Halloween, you had just Laurie Strode went through this just unbelievable, it just is so bitter and upset. In this case, Maverick's life, where we pick up, it's not perfect, but he's doing very well for himself. Like, he's flying in these epic, like top secret missions that are in all these testing facilities. So he's still flying out there. He hasn't ascended the ranks of the Navy that, someone with his credentials may have had. He doesn't have a wife and kids, but, it's not, his life isn't completely miserable. He's still doing some great stuff. But then there's still this redemption that he's got to find. He's got to find love. He's got to, rebuild that relationship with Goose's son, which is arguably some of the best stuff that you see this entire movie.
It's so there's some gutting scenes in there. It's what before we talked about this movie, they're like, man, what if Maverick and Goose's son don't necessarily get along, and those scenes are so good. Oh my
Yes.
god, it's the little moments in this movie that really put it over the top because the action speaks for itself, but you got just some top-notch actors, and even the rest of the flight crew is great too. You got Hangman in there, who's a great addition to the cast. Phoenix and Bob, the guy's call sign is just Bob. I love that too. I don't know. I was very satisfied
Yeah,
coming out of this.
and they introduce you to a pretty big flight crew, and the crew doesn't. Some of the crew members don't always fit into the storylines, and I've seen some criticism with this, like you don't have the same exciting chemistry between the crew that you have in the first movie. But at the same time, when you have a cast this big, it can some people are going to get lost in the shuffle. I think this movie does suffer from that a little bit. There are like two people I would say who are key to the final mission who just kind of, I was like, oh wait, do we even get to know them this entire movie? So I think that's one of the things I would criticize too. But the ones who they want you to care about and want you to have like that are central to the storyline are do an unbelievable job and are really well fleshed out. This is arguably some of Miles Teller's best work. Um, gosh, one guy we haven't talked about enough, John Hamm. I really do feel like in a way though that he is a recycled version of his character from The Town and his character from Richard Jewell. It's like he's playing the exact same person, but just like a high-ranking official in the Navy. But I honestly just don't care because this role just fits John Hamm so well. Being the handsome, intimidating authority figure is just something that John Hamm was born to play.
Yeah, John Hamm, the perfect person for this role. Kind of the villain, mostly just a thorn in Tom Cruise's side. Perfect person for a movie like this. I want to see John Hamm in every military centered movie from now until the rest of time.
Oh, yes. All right. So we're running short on time here. So let's go ahead and give our final reviews. Go ahead and give your Hall of Fame. Jeff, I already know where this is going.
It's a Hall of Fame. It's oh my god, I love this movie so much. I have so much to say, and we'll say more about it in the spoiler review that we do. But yeah, that's where I stand.
I'm so tempted. I'm tempted. Mm, oh, screw it. Let's just do it. Hall of Fame.
Oh,
Summer blockbusters are off to as good of a start as they could have been. I think, the Doctor Strange movie was a success, and found a way to make a superhero movie feel original. This has been a 30 years plus sequel we've been waiting for. It could not have had more pressure on it to live up to the original, especially when you had such an awesome cast and a phenomenal, it's just a pop culture sensation. And then you have it all these years later. And movie theaters are facing a test right now to get people to go to them. And this movie lived up to every expectation and is giving people a reason to go back to the movie theater. It's honestly what the world of movies, and I agree, Peyton, this is what the world of movies absolutely needed. It is so great to see this movie having the success it's having so far. And also we got a great tribute to Val Kilmer in there, who's in it not very long, but really was spectacular in his couple of minutes there too. So perfect blend. Didn't go overboard on the nostalgia. Very strong storyline. Wasn't movie's not perfect as we said before, but they're really just this emotional roller coaster it puts you on, the adrenaline rush it gives you, the beautiful visuals and the sound effects and the score, just plus a great cast. Really, really a complete movie and a sequel that really reminds you that sometimes these sequels are worth pursuing, and that's always a great sign.
go see it. Peyton gave his seal of approval. He doesn't hell at many movies, but he held at this one. So
Absolutely.
go see it.
Awesome. All right. Well, we thank you so much for joining us for this Top Gun Maverick instant reaction edition of Box Office Quarterbacks. Stay tuned for our spoiler review coming up within the next few days. We'll see you later for Good Friends and Real Talk.